Hey guys, it's Drew. Thank you for checking out the Sober Fix podcast, where we talk about addiction and living life sober, one day at a time. If you like what you hear, go ahead and follow us. And if you get some time, check out our Instagram page at the Sober Fix podcast, and also our YouTube and TikTok at the Sober Fix. Hope you enjoy the episode.
No, right?
No, you're good. Hey, what's up, guys? We are here, the Sober Fix podcast. We are on season 2, episode 23. And I'm excited today. We've got actor, producer, Andrew Roth is on. He is sober. He is another member of our awesome sober community. Andrew, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing today?
I'm great, Drew. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. I want to kind of start in the beginning. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Long Island for about 1 to 6. Way out, Patchogue, Long Island. And then at around 6, my parents, we used to camp a lot. That was one of the things that we did as a family that was beautiful. We all loved going camping, and we loved it so much. My parents, when we went to camping in Pennsylvania at this one campground, Red Run, they enjoyed it so much that they bought it, through, by whatever means. And so we were there till about 12, 6 years. And it didn't succeed the way they wanted. Dad was actually struggling to keep, we were struggling to keep it open. And we didn't know that, as kids, because they were their parents, you hide that from your kids. Dad would have to go back to work during the week, Monday to Friday, up in Long Island to do real estate, and then come back on the weekends to work the campgrounds. My mom would work it with the staff, and so it was a grueling schedule for them. But for us, it was heaven. I mean, it was a blast because all of our neighbors were farmers, Amish and Mennonite. So it was a really cool upbringing. We were the only white family. If you ever seen the movie Witness, it's like that kind of community. And we were like the only Caucasian, like not Caucasian, but like white American family that they would invite to these big, huge meals. Like we were always invited because we let all the Amish skate on our lake. Behind us was a 4-acre lake. So during the wintertime, and they were some of the most badass hockey players you'd ever see. Those Amish guys, man, it was crazy. So I grew up playing hockey and doing that too, and ice skating. Pretty awesome time to be a kid, at a campground and woods everywhere, cornfields, and haylofts, all that kind of stuff, like Stand By Me kind of stuff.
Oh, you guys probably had a ton of fun running wild out there.
Yeah, me and my little brother, it was like we'd only come home to eat and then we would be out again. You'd hear whistles from either my mom or Beth, who we called our sister, but she kind of lived with us. She was an employee that just became almost like family. Actually, she is like family, I love her like a sister. She is a sister, 100%. But yeah, so she has this ripping whistle, and anywhere we were, we'd hear it. So that's how we came home. There weren't any cell phones back then.
Oh, so you just heard the whistle and you knew it was time.
Yeah, or we'd hear boys. My mom would holler, and yeah, we'd hear it a fucking mile away. We'd still hear that. Sorry, excuse me for cussing.
Oh no, you're good.
Cool.
So how did you end up finding alcohol? Was there did you start early, or when did you start to kind of realize, ooh, I like this?
Probably 7th grade. Yeah. That's when I started, me and my buddy at Jimmy Connor's house, we would drink. The first one was with my oldest brother. And even in the campground, when we would have parties that my dad would host, he would DJ them at the lodge, everybody would drink. And then after the parties were closed, my brothers and I would sneak in there. And John, I think I sipped a couple of beers, but it tasted so terrible to me. I didn't like doing it. But John would do it, get drunk. And this one time he takes it and it's filled with cigarette butts and ashes. Oh man, his reaction. Oh. He opens up his mouth. He's got a tongue of a cigarette butt on it. It's all black. He threw up. But anyway, I digress. I'm sorry. I started drinking a lot, in 7th grade until I wound up pretty much overdosing one morning on a 10th grade when I just started 10th grade. and I got kicked out because I was drinking so much that morning, and I got into a fight with the gym teacher, and that's when I got sent away. The first time I got sent away to a therapeutic community in Aurora called Aurora Concept in Queens, which was a very controversial place. It's the time of Daytop and Synanon and all of those things where they focused on behavior modification, like military, brutal stuff. Like, and I was 15 at the time, one of the youngest kids ever brought in there. I'm talking like they scream in your face, and you have to stand up and say thank you to it. If you react, you'd have to scrub the floors with toothbrushes on your hands and knees for hours. I actually had a record for splitting that place, which splitting is called breaking out and leaving, because it's like bars on windows, buzz doors. It's legit. I actually had to sneak out through the food area. It's called, what's it called? Oh, gosh. I forget the name of the exit. Anyway, it's where we would the food would come in. So it was, you have to sneak around, crawl through it, and yeah, I got out that way a couple times. Other times, I found a way to buzz the door, but then I would hitchhike all the way back to Long Island from Flushing, Queens. This is all between 15 to 18. I was at Aurora for 35 months. And while I was there, I scored really high on my general equivalency diploma, my GED. And I scored really high and was able to get into Stony Brook University. I never had to take an SAT or any of that kind of stuff. It was kind of funny because I was such a screw up in school. I mean, we're talking, if every once in a while I get an A or a B, it's mostly C, D's, F's. I just couldn't pay attention. I was one of those, They would have put me on medication if they could have, but back in the day, they didn't believe in that stuff, and thank God they didn't, because that would never have worked out. I mean, it just would have exacerbated the emotional situation, because that's what it all is, all of that stuff, the anxiety that a child feels and can't control himself. Well, it's because he also can't talk to his mother and father. He doesn't feel comfortable enough, or anyone in his community. So we bottle those things up, and then we project them out onto the world through inappropriate behavior or destructive habits that we do to ourselves, one or the other. So it's great coming from this kind of past. You know all of this stuff because you've experienced it too. So that's one of the beautiful things about, going through the fire, so to speak. We really develop it if we do the proper work of cleaning up everything and making amends with ourselves and with everyone else. We have such a stronger sense of compassion and empathy for others who are suffering. I mean, I'm so done with anger now. Like, I just feel sympathy and compassion for people. Anger is such a waste. Now, I get it. It's good in the beginning because it's like, it's a good fuel to get things moving if you're complacent and if you're allowing people to walk all over you. But which happened to me as a child, which is why I became such a violent, abusive adult. So if we're allowed to talk about those things, that those things never have to happen. Feel safe.
Yeah. And I love that you're kind of talking about all that. I can relate to so much of it. So were you there from 15 to 18?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I saw
Yeah.
a couple of times, like right before I was close to getting out too. Like I was always, so, and that's a telltale thing in my life. Like I do really well, and then my spirit or the ego gets in the way of the spirit, and it sets me down to back to square one again. That was one of those cases. Like I was getting ready to graduate, not graduate, but get ready to leave, and something happened. I forget what it was, and yeah, I was a facilitator, and I knocked myself down to a hookup. That's what happens if you violate any of the house rules. You get hooked up, and since I split, they would shave my head, and I'd have to sit on a stool and face the corner for like almost sometimes. I think the longest I ever did it was a week. And I'm
A
talking.
week?
Yeah. Oh, bro, I see people do it for a month. These people who are just hardcore dope fiends. Like I was in there with some of the worst of the worst. And this is New York City, Flushing, Queens, just rough area. And I was a white boy from Long Island, you know what I mean? So it was a culture shock. I was like, they nicknamed me Jungle Boy because I always wanted to be outside and I was playing. I used to skateboard. I was that's one of the younger generation skaters, like suicidal tendencies was my music. So that's who I was. And, it was mostly African American, Puerto Rican, people who were rough, people who were mandated there by court. Instead of going to jail, they made a deal. So they would do that place, and my parents put me, actually my dad mostly, he was the one who just had enough. They couldn't control me. I was really out of control, let me tell you. In my memoir, I talk about it, it was, but again, abusers become, the abused become abusers. That's the thing, and the thing I didn't get into with the whole time when I was in Pennsylvania, we had a very abusive upbringing, a lot. But my dad and I now, people have to know, I love him more than anything. We've gone through so much therapy together. He's admitted he made mistakes. It's the most biggest blessing that most people don't get. So I couldn't be more grateful, and that's also why I'm so empathetic, and it's easy for me to be compassionate and sympathize and not to be defensive, because I've been given so many blessings, and I can tell you, I've never felt like I was worth it. Ever felt like I was worth any of it because of the things that I did, and all of that's in my memoir, which it's kind of like you know what we get in the rooms of AA or gamblers and so you get raw honesty, and it inspires other people to be honest because they see these people have escaped this torturous prison that I've had in my mind, and it's only in our mind. I mean, we could be out in the world, but we still feel like we're in hell. And we could be out in the nature, but we can't because you're so locked up in your own thoughts and the guilt of the past. So we get that release in AA or NA, and that's what I'm sharing. That's why I want to do my story, because it's going to be a show that will really change the expectations of what we expect, what we go to theater, what we want. It's real. It's not a play. It's a one-person show, and it's their life story. And I'm going to be sharing the worst things of my life and how I came out of it, so that I use my example as a mirror for them, because they're going to be seeing me, listening to my words, but they're going to be thinking, "Oh, I did A, B, and C," or maybe not the extreme, but again, Jesus was sacrificed and was crucified, all of that, but never blamed or hated mankind. He forgave them, for they know not what they do. And that's the same thing that we have to do with the people who we think hurt us. They were doing the best thing that they thought at the time. They didn't know any better. But when we overcome it with love, and I'm trying to inspire that with other people. Forgiveness is the way. It's really the way miracles are made.
Yeah, man. And so did you get started in sobriety? Was it through 12-step meetings and stuff like that?
Yes, AA saved my life. Absolutely. Well, I would say my mom and dad stepping in, and the neighbors who picked me up off the ground, saved my life when they sent me to the hospital. But yeah, the 12-step program is what gave me the tools, and seeing people there, and realizing it was, my gosh, I could do it. The thought of going a month without a beer. I mean, what, are you kidding me? And I used to drink vodka, like a big bottle a day towards the end. I was drinking a day. I was dying. So, yeah, we need to see those people, and people need to see it and know, and I wouldn't, honestly, I know better never to say never, but you would have to kill me, and I'd be unconscious to be pouring liquor into this body, at this point. I'd have to be unconscious. I'd just be going like that. I would fight you. That's when I'll fight again. You know what I mean? It's like, because anyway, that's a whole nother story. The MMA guy, all of that stuff. I used to be into all of that. I had a club in Stony Brook. I was the most violent, worst of the worst. The things that I did. I'm not proud of it. I'm ashamed. But it's great because I know I'm not that guy anymore. See my people back in New York, that's when you hear it. That's when you know, when you get it from other people, when they tell you you've changed.
Yeah, and how did was it the program, the AA program, or 12 steps, or how did you kind of get to a point where you were able to kind of let go of that past, let go of some of either the abuse stuff that you mentioned? How did you work towards that, kind of moving on from all that stuff?
Well, faith got me there, a lot of it. Always knowing and always just, I have always believed and been connected to spirituality, to spirit. And 3 times I've had near-death experiences, and each time I saw the face of Jesus Christ and I heard his voice, and he'd always say, "I'm here with you, relax, I'm taking you now, don't be afraid." And I'd pass out because I was in a stream, like I got smashed in the head with a AK-47, and it cracked on me one time. One time I was locked in I was working in a, anyway, we don't need to know the gory details, like I said, but I was always attached to spirit. And if the Bible served me and I served it for a long time. But then eventually it became, when you know the word of spirit, there is no talk of killing. There is no talk of any of the war and the violence. That's the word of man. And I had eventually, someone brought me to a book called A Course in Miracles. I don't know if you're familiar with A Course in Miracles, but for me, that's really, and I've always studied, and even in school, storybook philosophy. I love all of the ancient books, the Upanishads, the Emerald Text, the Tao Te Ching is one of my favorites. I definitely am strongly into the Eastern philosophy, but at the core of it, I know only from my experience who I've seen, who has always been there to comfort me, and that is Jesus Christ. And I don't use the word God more as such as I use the word creator, because we didn't create ourselves. Something else did. Everything has a father. That certainly everything that makes life has a father. It was created. So something created us, and the Prince of Peace was his son. And so for me, that's it. And A Course in Miracles, like the course, you open up any section and it's going to be talking about you. And it does use the word Christ because that's the highest we can attain, but everybody is the Christ. It wasn't one person. Jesus didn't want followers. He wanted leaders. He was telling people that they were him. He was the reflection of themselves. And for me, that's what it means when they say Jesus raised the dead. Well, nobody can raise the dead. God doesn't break its laws to make things like that. Those are people who want miracles that can't be made so that nobody makes a change. A miracle is something that can just happen. And when Jesus looked at people, he looked at them as if he was looking as perfectly at himself, and he raised them from their spiritual death, and they could see again, just like Paul, when he lost his sight and was given his sight again. And I always identify with that story because I played Paul in a film called My Name is Paul.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's on Prime. Anyway, it's definitely been faith, has always protected me. That's the more than AA, because God was always the first thing. Even when I wasn't down and out, every time I pass a church, I'd always cross myself. I don't believe in religion, though. It's important people know that I don't believe in religion. I believe in spirituality and spirit, because religion is a dogma. And what has to be for one person has to be for everybody. That's it. That's how it is, because we're one family, one color, red. We all bleed the same color,
Yeah, man, that's so interesting to listen to. I could tell you have a ton of knowledge on just spirituality and spiritual principles. At what point did you kind of realize, look, something has to change here when you were drinking the vodka, the bottle each day? Was there a point that you can kind of remember where you're like, man, like something has to give, like I've got to do something different?
I wish I did. I was so in denial. Bro, I couldn't even walk towards the end. I couldn't go up to my second floor. I had a studio downstairs, upstairs, like, all one open room. But towards the end, I couldn't even make it up my stairs. I had to crawl across to use the bathroom downstairs because I couldn't walk. I was forced, like I said, my neighbor called my parents after I was the superintendent of our building, this apartment complex. And at the time I weighed probably 118 pounds because I wouldn't eat, and I'm standing outside in the middle of the parking lot in the daytime pissing, urinating, excuse me. I'm so coarse. Forgive me.
Oh, you're good.
And so she calls my dad, "Mark, your son is outside, urinating. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He's naked." She's like, "Call an ambulance." So, and that's it. I was forced to go to detox in, I think it was Good Samaritan in Babylon. And I stayed there for 14 days. I had to learn to walk from a therapist. Like I couldn't walk, my body was shutting down organs. I was kept unconscious for 3 days because I was so violent. You know, it was like, and nobody came to see me except my little brother towards the end. And he kind of, in my memoir, I talk about how he came in there and he dropped some like Buddha, sage, wise stuff in my memoir and in the actual show. It's only going to be me the entire time. And then when I say I talk about my little brother, light's going to stop on me. It's going to go off into the wing, and my little brother's going to come walking on behind me, put his hands on his shoulders, say his lines, and then leave. There ain't gonna be a dry eye in the house. Everyone's gonna be like, oh.
Yeah, tell me about the memoir. How did you come up with the idea?
Well, somebody I was just encouraged to do it, to get like everything out of my chest, off my chest. There was never an intention of me sharing this with anybody, and I think that's why it was so good, because I wrote everything down with the intention of like getting it out. And that's what, whenever I meet anybody who's kind of stuck with some kind of emotional thing going on or trauma like event, I tell them, write your story. And I'm talking, write it. Don't shortchange yourself. Write down every single little thing with the intention you're never going to share it with anybody, because it's between you, and you will feel yourself talking to something greater than yourself. You channeling, whatever you want to call it, but something, if you ask and you're honest, the universe is going to help you, man. It wants to help all of us, but it has to see us putting in what we think is heavy lifting, because we don't do it, so it's heavy, but it's actually light lifting, because the more we do it, the lighter we become, the less tied down to these emotional things are. And the first night, and I wrote it by hand. I'm not one of those tech guys. I write everything longhand. Uh, I couldn't. I came home from work the next day, so anxious to do it, and I just had a Coca-Cola, and if I drank a Coca-Cola at like 3 or 4 o'clock, I'd be up till 11, because I don't drink a lot of caffeine. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I'd crack open a Coke and I'd get to writing, and I wouldn't stop. And I did it in 7 days, and it was like 70 pages. It was like 10 pages a night. And
Wow.
yeah, it was incredible. Like I said, it poured out of me. It was something else was flowing, and that's not the full memoir though, because I mean that's not the memoir I'm putting out there, because it's brutal. That long, people can't sit through that. My show is 1 hour. It's a 30-minute read, pretty much, because I knew if I had breaks, people would not come back in the second half. So I needed to just get the matter of fact things that happened, and also I tell everybody's side of the story. It's very objective. Nobody's a victim here. My dad loves me, loved all of us, and did the best that he could. He was never taught the things, that whole generation, that World War II generation. Kids were beat, and it was common, and it was normal, and you were not supposed to speak up, and we were never taught how to deal with emotions or any kind of responsibility until you get like 16, 17. And that's because you're so angry, you're rebelling. Like that's how life was. And it's so different now. So the kids can't understand that. So, but those people who were doing what they did, they were doing the best that they could. And that's when you really work with forgiveness for yourself and those people. When you see it for that, everything's good. There's no anger. You're not mistrusting anybody. There's always love. And that's what happens when you write. I'm telling you, everybody who writes it, they're going to experience that. You're just going to get it off your chest and out of your head, because that's where it is. It's just locked up in our head. It's a story and a false narrative that we're telling ourselves, that we're bad, that we've done these things. We did those things in time, but we had to in the moment. Otherwise, we just wouldn't be who we are today.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about it being just so therapeutic as you're writing it, and being anxious to like get home and kind of continue working on it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it wanted to get out of me, and I think that's what it is for everybody, because love wants to just, because that's who we are. We are naturally loving and gentle and really childlike, all of us at the end of the day, but we feel like that's a weakness, or that's a vulnerability, or it's woo woo. No, every other person who gets older in life, what do they strive to do? To be more childlike. If people can learn that in their 20s and 30s and keep that, what a life they could live. That's my goal now, just to show how my life was so screwed up, so that they don't do it, so that they can see the things to avoid, so that they have, that's how I can make the world a better place. And that's how anybody can, like the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror. Just one thing a day, maybe even only a week if that's all you can do. But if it's not serving you, if it can't be shared with everybody else, get rid of it. If it can't be shared, it has nothing good to do for mankind. If it's just for you and your little piece of something, we are grand, infinite, loving beings, and that's how we can relate to God when we're sharing love, with one another. That's the closest thing we can do to being a part of creation. And it's not sex love, that's lust. I'm talking the love of Jesus is the only thing, and it's the same love for everybody. My love for you, for my brother, for my friend, my mother. It's the same love. The ego love, that's not love. Love doesn't make a bargain, say, I'll love a little bit over here and somebody else a little over there. No, it's total, or it's something that the ego made up, trying to make a bargain. And love does not make bargains.
Yeah, man. And so when you finally went to the detox, did they take you to like a treatment center right after that?
Yep, I had to go to, say, the Seafield out in West Hampton. Insurance took me there for like 14 days, and then that was it. They were done. I had to go to a halfway house in Riverhead. And that was the place that really made the greatest change, because I was going to outpatient, 5 days a week, intensive, what is it called again? Intensive therapy, outpatient counseling, 5 hours a day. Was it five? No, it was 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then we had to do AA at night. And the counselor that I had was just phenomenal. She really helped me a lot. Honestly, I can't. Shame on me. I can't remember her name. I'm not going to try to fake it. I can't remember her name. And when I went back, she was already gone. Something wasn't worked out. But she was wonderful. She really helped me a lot. And AA again, going to a place where people they had gone through worse than I had, if not the same. But again, it's all the same. It's all a lack of love. There's no degree. There's either total or there's a lack of love, and then we're living in the world of insanity and darkness.
Yeah. And so when you were in the treatment center, was it hard for you to do the counseling? Because I know some people are resistant to counseling in the beginning. Was it hard for you to open up in the beginning?
I wanted to, but that place was, I can honestly say Seafield was a joke. It was nothing, because I came from having, excuse me, experienced hardcore therapeutic community where we're in like groups for hours on end, but where we're talking and investing about ourselves. So I came from that. When I got to see, all they did at Seafield was, I'm talking morning to night, we sat through seminars where we filled out stuff. We never had intensive group therapy. And like, I was arguing with the counselors about it. I'm like, why aren't we talking about anything? Why are we sitting in a group? I said, I got stuff I got to get out. You know what I mean? And I was actually a problem. They didn't like me very much because I would say that I was an Aurora concept, and a couple people know that name. Everybody in New York knows that name. It's like I said, Daytop and Synanon, all those places. Everybody knows those names. They're abusive places. So they were like, this is not Aurora concept. This is not a therapeutic community, But so yeah, I was only, and that may have been one of the reasons why I got the boot too. But it was the best thing for me because, like I said, the halfway house is where I really grew. The group, the count, she was wonderful, and our group was great. We had a really good group. Everybody wanted to talk, so. Yeah. And then I came down to Florida. My parents saw that my commitment was sincere, that I was working to stay sober, and they invited me to move to Florida with them. So I did. I needed it, and that's one of the tenets in AA. You got to change people, places, and things. They all got to go. You've got to make a change in that regard. Otherwise, if you're hanging out in the same spots, with the same people, eventually it's like you sit in the barber chair long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Yeah, I did that many times. I would get out of treatment and I'm like, yay, I'm healthy. I'm going to go hang out with my friends and show them that it's possible to change your life, And I'd be hanging out and I'm like watching them drink. And at first, they offer me a beer. No, I'm good. I'm great. I feel good. I'm changing my life. They drink like 2 more beers in front of me and I'm thinking, man, we used to have a lot of fun drinking together. And suddenly I'm forgetting about the detox and all the problems and the misery and the insanity. And next thing you know, I say, yeah, man, I'll take that. On the fourth offer, I'm in, and I get right back to the same results again, same pattern.
Mhm. In there, exactly. Yeah. It's so great because it's all the same story, you know? It really, really is.
I know we think a lot of times, so at least I did coming in. I thought that my situation was so different, and
Yeah.
come to find out, it's like, man, we experience the same things,
Yeah.
same feelings, emotions, pain, lack of love, like you mentioned.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, bro.
Yeah, man. So you continue, and you decided you're like, I'm gonna do the memoir. Was that what's next for that? Are you guys already doing shows, or how is that?
Making money with, well, I'm looking for a solid investor who wants to, if somebody's willing to put up 30 grand, I'll make them in 4 weeks 125 grand. Like I'm giving a 400% ROI simply because I'm not concerned about the money. I want to do this show. I've got the theater in New York City. It's called the Actors Temple. It's on 8th and 45th. So I just have to come up with the money to rent that theater. I'm spreading the word through media on my own, through podcasts. I have a GoFundMe that's set for 20 grand. The show is also going to be filmed, and then we're going to stream it so I can make, funds, recover funds that way as well, because there's always a lot of money in passive income in streaming. And my newest film was picked up by Gravitas Ventures. It's called For Sale. That's on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. They've said that they've given me a verbal agreement that they'll distribute it, but distribution is going to be easy. So it's going to be actually putting it all together. I've directed this. I've put the lights, the sound together. I've got DJ Ming. He's a producer in New York City. He's going to be, recording a couple of new songs for the show for free because he believes in what I'm doing. So yeah, I have to just come up with the money and do it. I'm doing it all on my own. This is truly a one-man show.
That's cool, man. Good for you.
Thank you.
And what was that like, making like the video for the memoir stuff? Because I checked out the website and everything. It was super cool. What was it like to kind of just put your story out there like that? Was that hard for you? Is that natural for you?
It's natural for me because when I was at Aurora, they actually had me working. I'd go on speaking engagements for the place to promote it, because I was always kind of, that's just what I'm good at, as an actor, as an artist, or as being a cut up. I was always looking to be the center of attention because I was such a cut up in school. So at least when I got myself sober and cleaned up, I present well, as long as I was sober. Uh, so that's what I did there. I was always used to it. And it's always cathartic for me. I don't want to keep that stuff bottled inside. I never did. Even when I was miserable, a lot of us, when we're at the bar, we're crying our blues to everybody. You know what I mean? I couldn't bottle up my emotions, and if I wasn't talking about it or whining about it, I was beating somebody's skull in because of it. Because they triggered me, challenged me. Definitely had the small guy mentality. I had to prove myself to everybody. To
Yeah.
myself. To myself, I mean, excuse me.
Oh, prove it to yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool, man. And what was it like in kind of the 12-step stuff? Did you like that right away, or were you someone that was
No,
resistant?
I was resistant. Yeah, making amends, giving up my powers, answering to a yeah, my first, and he was hardcore. My first sponsor, Andy, he was tough. I didn't make the first one. It was my second shot at AA where I did it. My sponsor, that's when I was really sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I say that in my memoir. It's one of the best AA euphemisms. You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. You really do. To give up all of your will and let another guy tell me. I stuck to everything that they said. I stayed out of relationships for a year. That was one of the best things to ever do. Just in the first year of AA, do not get into a relationship. And anything you're giving up, because you get into a relationship and you focus on that other person instead of focusing on yourself. That's just natural. That's how it works. So that definitely was one of the main things that helped keep me sober. I really took those 12 months to clean up my backyard, and longer than that. It was probably 3 years, I think, before I ever had a relationship again. I was serious. I lost a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of money. I mean, I lost so much as an alcoholic towards the end.
Yeah, and we, a lot of us here, hey, stay out of a relationship for a year, and I've seen it so many times, and it's happened to me myself where I'm focused on getting sober and turning things around. And then I would get into a relationship, and the sobriety aspect of life just goes right out the window.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's life and death for me, yet I'm putting a relationship first, which normally fails anyway. It's so crazy how I'd put all these things before staying sober when my quality of life relied on it.
Right. Yeah.
And all these things that I'm putting first, they come and go.
Yeah. Yeah. The ego, which we don't have an ego, and that's one of the things that it teaches in the Course in Miracles, but we believe that we do. We feed it so much instead of feeding spirit. Its voice becomes so loud, that's what we listen to. But there's a way out. There is a way out, to not, because the ego's not real. It's made up. Only what's real is what we came in here with, which is our spirit, our soul, whatever you want to call it, and that's forever. But the ego, we make that up to defend from whatever happened to us as a kid, and the fear of the future. So we think that that's real. It is not real. It can be unmade. And eventually, if you continue to work at it, you don't hear it anymore. You won't. You'll hear your higher power, your higher self, the goodness, And when people are being sarcastic or they're laughing at somebody else's expense, you're not going to, because you're going to feel the pain of those people who are laughing at that person, because they're suffering too. That's why we laugh at other people, because we're actually suffering. So we're seeing it happen in them, which gives us a passing green light to think, oh, we're better than them. So I don't even do that. Like, I can't watch Ridiculous anymore because it's not making the world a better place. It's me standing from a distance, judging, separating myself from the situation. We are all connected. We are all one family, And if we really believed that, and I do, we wouldn't do half the things that we do. We just wouldn't do it because I'm doing it to myself. I can't. None of us can hurt anybody before we first hurt ourselves, because in that moment we do not have peace of mind. We're in hell because we're second guessing ourselves. We're anxious. We're about to do something screwed up. We're not being honest. We're in hell. Call it what you want. It's not peaceful. It's not loving. And the more we do that, the more disconnected we're going to feel. The more disconnected you're going to feel to yourself. So that all you'll listen to is this voice that keeps saying, I got to get more. I got to do this. I got to get more. We don't need anything except to eat, have a roof over our head, place to use the bathroom. I mean, realistically, we are perfect creations, created perfectly. And I don't care what anyone else says. They can believe what they want. But I don't have to believe it with them. You know what I mean? I'll always support people's beliefs and never make them feel guilty. But at the same time, it's what can be shared. It's what's love, and that's it for me.
Yeah, man. I love it. So what's next for you? What do you
The memoir, and then
memoir?
yeah, the memoir is paramount for me. A lot of the films that I used to do, I've been on probably over 40 films. Most of them were always violent roles, addicts, action films. Because I'm an MMA guy. I used to do fight choreography for lots of films. So I don't want to do that anymore, though. I really don't. I could care less about doing that. I wouldn't. I just want to do something that's going to inspire people. That's why I want to do my story. And then I have a reality show I want to do called Road to Redemption, where I'm living out of an RV, like a Sprinter or, a ProMaster converted to a motorhome, with a cameraman and a sound guy. And I'm going to take 3 people that I've hurt and loosely script it and ask them, I'm going to go on the road and ask them to forgive me. And then I'm going to allow 3 friends to do it as well. And that'll be like 1 season or 4 and 4, And once the show, I really think it's going to become popular. It's going to be built entirely on forgiveness and how that's how we change the world. It won't have a faith or a dogma. People can be of any religion, any culture. And then if once it becomes successful, I want to do it with like celebrities or politicians, because that's what people want to see. The people in power step up, and there's a whole bunch of people who want to be forgiven. They do. They just need the opportunity. And if they see other people do it, like that's what it means also when Jesus says to be the light in the world. You have to shine your light for other people to have permission to shine theirs. And if you shrink yourself because somebody else is insecure of your light, then you're failing in an even worse way. We're believing their illusion and then completely believing one about ourselves inside because of them. That does havoc to someone's spirit and their mind and your psyche. People have to know how infinitely limitless they are, like the Bradley Cooper show. And if you believe it, you can tap into those parts in your mind, but you have to believe it. Because if I say no, I'm small, I'm limited, I can't do this because I don't have A, B, and C, well, of course you're going to stay there because you're telling every single cell in your body that you're that way. So we have to wipe that hard drive, that program, and write a new one. Journaling, and you write those things every single morning. You look at yourself in the mirror and you say to yourself the three things before you go to bed and you wake up: I forgive you, I love you, I thank you. Right? I always say to people, if you can look at yourself for 30 seconds, you can do a minute even more, but just gently in the mirror and just look at yourself loving, not tensely, oh God, I can look at myself. No, love yourself. It took me a long time to be able to do that. And I should say that I didn't tell you this, I was in the Amazon jungle for a month with a shaman. And that's one of the biggest things that changed my life too. In February, at the beginning of this year, that's something that was just, but all the movies I've done, all of that stuff, nothing compared to the time that I spent with Doña Otilia, probably 30-year shaman, in Iquitos, Peru, way out in the jungle, no running water, no power. She doesn't speak English, just Spanish. And I was there by myself. I was not with a group. It was just me out there in the jungle in the cabin by myself, her and hers, with just one assistant. It was, yeah. And I did ayahuasca, 7 ceremonies, but it was more, I went down there. She's like cleansed my body with all these different plants. Like I was taking full on plant baths, purple water, like being poured over me. Like it was the best thing I've ever had, and I never felt so pure when I left that place. I remember when I came leaving, my urine was actually crystal white, it was nothing, everything the meals she prepared, because everything's grown on her property. She prepares it all herself. So one of the main reasons was also to cleanse my body of all the blood parasites that I had, the fungi, the candida, all of the stuff that we get, worms, just from eating American food, or any processed food, especially meat. If we eat red meat, many of us have worms. We don't even know it. But that's a whole nother story. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm tripping on this. I'm thinking of you in the jungle with the 2 cabins. What an experience, huh?
Yeah, it's all on my Instagram. People want to know, I can be found on Instagram at Be Here Now Always. It's probably, yeah, you got to scroll down a little bit, but I put all the meals, the time that I was able to. I had my own tour guide. This guy who became like a great friend of mine. He asked me to be the godfather of his new daughter. Just the best time of my life. If I had the money, I never would have come back. It really was wonderful. But even Donya was telling me I have to come back because she's like, I have a message that I have to share with people. She told me the things that she told me, like I get very emotional because I have to hold her in the highest regard, and like she'd make me just cry. The things that she would say, the highest thing, it's such respect, and because you don't feel worthy of someone like this woman. She is like an angel, man. This woman. I called her my nieta, my abuelita. She called me her nieto. It's like grandmother and grandson. She told me I lived indigenous. I actually experienced my life indigenously while I was down there. I experienced my last life where I got killed. I witnessed myself get stabbed, which is one of the deals that I make coming in this life to experience tremendous hardships, because that last life that I was like a really horrible person. I was a killer, and I got stabbed to death. I actually saw myself getting stabbed to death, and I was Spanish in the image of me, and I was looking down to my left, and I remember I was telling Donya while she's, because she would run the ayahuasca journey, she'd take it with me, and we would go together, and she'd be singing and chanting. It's absolutely, anybody who's locked up with any kind of trauma or anything that they're looking to go deeper into, or I should say higher into themselves, spirituality. She believes very much in God and Christ. She's not some witch doctor. She believes that he has mentioned Jesus Christ, but she believes in nature too, as do I. Go to, well, I would say my shaman, not my shaman, but Doña Otilia, because I can confirm. But if you're going to go to somebody, make sure you do the research. Make sure you know somebody who has gone to a shaman, because you're putting your life in their hands. And I know, but I knew somebody who knew her, and he was an amazing dude. So that's why I trusted going to her. And then when we met on WhatsApp, because we had a facilitator, she doesn't speak English. She just, it was like speaking. I met my grandmother. It felt like that's who I was talking to, and I was like, wow. I mean, she said some things about me that I could not believe. For one, she told Nicole, who was a facilitator, she couldn't be there when I go there because I had an entity attached to me that she needed to remove. And no one else could be there except her, because she's strong enough to resist it, and it was going to go into the jungle. The jungle would absorb it. So I was like, whoa. And I was supposed to go with a group originally. And she says, I can't go with the group. I have to go alone because of this. And I was like, what the It's crazy, right? So she's like, and I need to stay for at least 3 weeks because of all of the crap that I had going on in my digestive. I actually had an ulcer that was it was the size of my fist, and it would pulse and throb. It gave me so much. I couldn't eat before I left. It was bad. All of that she cured me of. And yeah, I can't wait to go back. I wanted to go back in February, but I can't do anything until I do the memoir. That's got to be paramount. And then as soon as I finish the show, I'm going to see her again. I miss that place. And yeah, I think you'd love it too, bro.
What an experience.
Yeah, the apex experience of my life was Peru, 100%.
And were you originally going to go there for a shorter amount of time, but she said, oh no, you got more going on. You need the 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks. And then when she said, I digress. I forgot part of the story. She said 3 weeks. So I told, and she said, Nicole can't be there. I said, well, Nicole, I can't communicate with her. I don't speak Spanish. Nicole tells that to her, and she looks at me right through the phone, and she puts her finger and goes like that and starts laughing, and tells Nicole, he speaks Spanish. He speaks enough that he can understand me, and I do. I didn't tell them that. I was like, I just looked at her and started laughing. So I said, I'll stay for a month. She said, perfect. So I did. I stayed for the whole month, and it was the best time, man. It was just great.
Wow. And so you walked out of there just feeling not only better physically without the ulcer, but just better spiritually as well.
You were going to say it high, just high, naturally. Like for the first couple of months, like definitely. Like so high on life, I was running on serious oxygen. But then because I kept my diet strict. I wasn't doing any sugar. Like that's one of the main things. You got to give up everything before you go. Anybody who does CBD, if they any kind of thing, caffeine, you can't have that. You can't have sugar, nothing, because it will not work with the plant medicine. It's just going to destroy it. So I was serious. I even shaved my head before I left, and I burnt my hair on one of the full moons, offering it like I was, dude, I went in deep, man. And it was so great because one night I got a call from Nicole out of the blue. They were so helpful, her and Donya. And she said, Donya sees, and so do I, what you're doing. I didn't tell them anything. They said, we know what you're doing and we believe in you. It's like they knew I was really freaking committed because I was scared. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm going out there by myself. But then eventually, when I was detoxing everything, I was doing serious journaling because my dreams were getting crazy. And I wrote them down. I was like, I just became so joyous. I knew I was going to be safe no matter where I went and no matter what I did. And because I really gave in too, I said, I'm going to be taken care of. I know it. So I just completely committed to it. And it's true everywhere I went. Like, I remember going to some of the horrible parts of town, and I went to get my hair cut. And I'm stupid like that, because I know how to fight. Unfortunately, that's that bad side of me. It just comes out. I'll go anywhere because I was a badass. I ain't gonna lie, but that's never who I was. So I went to this hair salon, and it looked like it was like the mafia. All these big Latin guys, big cholos, big dudes. And I take my backpack off that has all of my cash and my passport, and I'm speaking to them because I spoke Spanish. I can get by, and they're going to give me a skin fade. And I asked where the bathroom is. They're like right in the back, this dark hallway. It's a seedy looking place. And I left my bag there, and I go right to the bathroom without even thinking of it. And there's 6 guys in there. And I go into the bathroom. As soon as I start pissing, I'm like, dude, you left all of your money, all of your stuff right there in the bag. Like, the fear crept in, and then instantly a voice came over. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be there. You are safe. And as soon as I walked out, sure enough, they're like, hey, because the guy had my chair right. They're talking to me. They told me where to go out dancing later if I wanted to. It's like, it's the vibration, man. I don't know what it is, but once we give into it, once we accept, and once we're always doing good, if we veer off into the world where I'm going to be shady and I'm going to lie to get something, I'm going to manipulate, whatever it is, you're on your own then. There's going to be some angels, and you'll have some things trying to help you to avoid calamity. But if you get hit by a car, or if somebody steals something from you, God forbid, anything, it's because you invited it. We invite that darkness in when we behave like miscreants, when we do selfish things that can't be shared with other people. You're on your own. If people knew that, they wouldn't do half the things that they did. That's what I wish I could make them understand, feel what I went through. But we all have a dark, what's the bottom? What is it? What are we saying? Everybody has a bottom, or something like that. Even if it's the wife who drinks 3 glasses of wine a day, that's her bottom.
Yeah.
She feels bad about it. If we feel bad about it, that's your internal guide saying, stop. This isn't who you are. That's how simple it is. How simple it could be.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned too. It's different for everyone. It's when the individual just reaches a point where they've had enough.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate talking to you. It's been awesome. I do want to ask you one thing, and I find it super interesting. So you saw your last life.
Yes. Part of it.
Part of it. Okay. And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you remember most of the ceremonies, or is it just kind of
100% crystal clear? Because I actually put them up on my YouTube page too. As soon as I got back to my cabin, because I would also eat, because I'd eat afterwards. She'd make me a meal, which is also really, most people don't eat afterwards, but we would fast. And as it was, I didn't weigh a lot. So I was like emaciated on the days we were fasting. For the ayahuasca ceremony, yeah, you fast the whole day. You just have breakfast. But in any case, as soon as I got back to my cabin, I would get in my bed and I would record the entire thing in my phone. And then in the morning, I wrote it out so that I would not forget it. So they were every single one of them. I have voice that I could always listen to, but I remember them. Like, I can tell you on the first one wasn't as powerful. And I'm not sure it's because she gave me a smaller dose, or it's because maybe I was blocking, but I didn't see as much. I felt a lot, but I was hearing direct voices, like my spirit guide. The questions I was asking constantly. There's a technique, I guess I'll share with you, that was given to me in dreams. It's a message. If it's something we want to really know, we write it down 3 times. If we really want to know, we write those same things 6 times. If it's like a burning desire, 9 times. The same 3 questions 9 times over. Those are the keys to the universe, from Tesla and all the other. Those are like the ultimate prime numbers. So 3, 6, and 9, and I would write it down every morning when I woke up, and every night when I went to bed. These 3 questions, which I'm not going to share, but they were answered to me in that first ceremony. And then in the next one, I remember it so perfectly. Almost everything you see, if you ever see those pictures of the shamans, a lot of the mint green or that color from the Matrix, that's predominantly like a lot of the color that you'll see on the ayahuasca. And for me, on the first one, I remember there were angels all around, all above me, like actual angels, like I seen wings. It was just how I was interpreting them. There were three, and they were transmitting to me that you have always been loved, you've always been safe. You fought to get here. Like my mother was barren. These doctors said she could never get pregnant. So when she found out she was pregnant with me, my biological father wanted her to get an abortion, so she left him. So I fought to get here. And even Donia had told me that. Didn't know anything about my past. I'm an angel that I fought to get here, and they had me put my hands up, and as I did, this is on my YouTube page, I entwined my fingers with theirs, and they pushed it down across it felt like I had thousands of hands touching me, and I started weeping. And they put my hands on my heart, and they said it was never your heart that was broken. And this was a message for everybody. My message is the same for everybody. Our hearts are never broken. It's our minds that get broken, and then we tell it, they broke my heart. It's our minds get broken, and our body's going to follow our mind. So if we say we're broken, yeah, my heart's broken. No, the heart has always been, what I was hearing, the heart's always been safe. It was your mind. And then as soon as, after I felt that and acknowledged it, I saw an explosion of every colors like I've never even seen before, of flowers pouring out of my heart, and then toys from my childhood. Every single toy that I could ever, G.I. Joes and Transformers, and even the real, that you ever remember that thing, the thing you would pull, and it's a string. It spins around and it says the pig goes oink, 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 or the cow goes moo. It's like pictures of farm animals, like all these Captain Crunch cereals. All of these things were pouring out of my hearts. And then I started to see my life as an indigenous. Like I saw an entire Inca village in front of me, but it was miniaturized. It goes on and on. I saw in that one as well, it was I was down with the insects. I was small, like smaller than like a grain of probably dirt. And there was a huge caterpillar that came up over this piece of grass. Huge, bro. And it looked at me with these massive black eyes. And normally someone would be afraid. There were bugs all around me, but I wasn't afraid. I was so happy. And the caterpillar, just like in Alice in Wonderland, looked down and transmitted to me, we're so happy you're here. We're so happy you're home because we're your family too. Like all the animals and all of the insects. That's what gets transmitted. It's more of, that's the feeling, the words that you hear, but it's also a feeling that you get extended when you're in ceremonies like that with higher forms of communication. It's telepathy. It's a form of telepathy that we all have access to, but we can't access it the way we live in this world, with the belief of the ego. It's not possible. I can't do it, so therefore we can't. Those things suppress that voice and allow the spirit voice to speak. That's all it is, and it's powerful stuff. It has to be respected. It is medicine, and that's what they call it, and any of the stuff that these people are doing these days there's ketamine therapy, and I even heard now there's LSD therapy. That's risky stuff. I'm not condoning it. I'm not also shaming it. I wouldn't do it because I've done terrible things on those drugs. So for me, it had to be a plant, something that was natural, something with a doctor, and it worked for me. But, it has to be something somebody has to take so serious. It has to be taken. If we treat it with respect, and it will change your life for the better, 100%.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on and all the interesting stuff that you have to talk about. It's super helpful for me. I think people are going to love listening to it. I just want to say to anyone listening, go and check out Andrew Roth's YouTube page. I'm going to put his website, I'm going to put everything for the memoir on the episode details, so you could find all of that stuff there. Andrew, before we close out, is there anything that you would say to those that are out there suffering, been trying to get sober for a while, carrying pain inside in their mind, in their heart, like you were talking about? What would you say to them? Just kind of some inspiration on changing or turning their life around.
Be easy on yourself. What you were doing, you were doing, operating at your best at that moment. You really were. And forgive yourself for that, because that's not who you are. That's who you were in that moment. And the spirit source never judges you. We only judge ourselves, and people judge each other. But spirit never does. It knows you can do better, but it's not judging you because you're not. You are. So let it go and just move forward with encouragement and love. And you could do it, because I mean, I was the worst of the worst, Drew. And people got do what Drew is doing, like I'm only trying to do what you're doing, bro. You built a community with your example. You know what I mean? You're inspiring thousands of people you don't even know you're touching, with your example. So that's what people got to do. This is a form of creation, and all of us are creative beings, and we want to express ourselves. Everybody has a story. I'm not special. Drew doesn't think he's special, but I think he is. And so do other people. And that's just how it goes. You are special, everybody out there, in your own way.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right, you made it through another episode. Thanks again, and if you'd like to collaborate or come on the show, please email me at thesoberfixpodcast@gmail.com. Have a great day.